For my presentation, I chose the topic of gender roles in adolescence. What are gender roles? A gender role is a behavior learned by a person as appropriate to their gender. It's determined by the prevailing cultural norms. Our textbook states that almost everything we do is gendered in almost every aspect of society, from parents to the media, shapes children toward cultural values concerning gender roles. Gender development flows from the interaction of intrapersonal, behavioral, and social influences operating within societal systems composed of parents, peers, teachers, mass media, and various social institutions. Gender roles develop through the processes of observational learning and self-regulation. There was a study by Trujillo which researched antisocial behavior in males and female adolescents. The study showed that males were more likely to be antisocial because males are less controlled by and attached to conventional settings. How does gender roles play a part in adolescence? There are three aspects to consider when talking about gender roles: body image, self-esteem, and conformity. Body image is my first point, and so I'll start with what is body image. Body image is one's perception or mental image of one's own body. Esenboga stated in her study that having a positive body image perception is not only one of the most important aspects of this period in adolescence, it also initiates the establishment of self-respect and the development of identity. Body image and gender roles coincide by how society stereotypes certain body types. For example, there's a heavyset girl that absolutely loves sports. Society, friends, and even just random observers have noticed this about her and automatically assume by her love of sports and her body image and what she looks like, she must play softball. Because I know as soon as I said something about a softball player, a body image popped in your head. So this girl, if she keeps hearing, "Oh, do you play softball?" or "Oh, you have the perfect shape or size for softball," or "Oh, you look like a softball player," she'll start to have a negative body image of what she thinks she is compared to what society has already stereotyped her as. A study by Tam showed that adolescents with a negative body image read more information on dieting and losing weight than adolescents with a positive body image. So, for example, we'll use another heavyset person. Say there's a heavyset guy that actually has complete confidence in himself, but yet you have his friends joking on him and there's derogatory comments. His body image is going to become negative, and he's just like with Tam, in the Tam study, he might start reading more on dieting and losing weight to help him change his own personal body image, or how he perceives his own personal body image. The second thing dealing with gender roles and in adolescence would be self-esteem. Self-esteem is one's confidence in one's own worth. It's also one's self-respect. In a study by Mockness, it was found that boys had a higher self-esteem than girls. The study also states, during adolescence, there is also an increase in self-consciousness, and self-esteem is typically understood to reflect the feeling of being satisfied with oneself and believing that they are a person of worth. So with this study, with self-esteem and gender roles, when you're in adolescence, that's about 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you start maturing, and you notice that you become more self-conscious, and when you become self-conscious, you have a lower self-esteem, especially when it becomes with gender roles, because in about 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, our self-esteem, like, say, for example, a girl tells a boy that, oh, you stink. So he's gonna be very self-conscious about how he smells during this period, because during this period they're going through the hormonal change of, starting to mature into, oh, well, boys like girls, girls like boys, that whole situation. But so the self-consciousness, he'll start have self-consciousness, but if he starts putting on deodorant, wearing cologne, and the girl decides to not, and the girl notices that and says, oh, you smell good, you don't stink anymore, his self-esteem is going to go higher. Now, how does self-esteem and gender roles coincide? Now, putting it into a classroom perspective, there are certain cultural norms that adolescents encounter. For example, boys are stereotyped to be more intelligent in math. So if a boy is doing well in math class, he will have a high self-esteem in his math class. So that example is showing that we're stereotyping the gender role of being a boy and self-esteem in his math class if he is actually doing well in math. The last point is conformity. Conformity is behavior in accordance with socially accepted standards. Pressure for gender conformity refers to the pressure adolescents experience from themselves and from others to conform to gender stereotypes. The best way to explain this is by Legarrett's study. It was shown that females had a higher interest in art, music, theater, and literature, which, if you think about it, going back to the math on our last slide, the arts, music, theater, and literature all have a feminine connotation. So in her study, it showed that females had a higher interest in this because society has said this is, when you think arts, music, theater, and literature, it is feminine connotation. So math, you automatically think, oh, well, maybe I'm not good at math because I'm not a boy. That's more of a boy subject. However, this study also found that it is more difficult for a male adolescent to like an activity perceived as feminine. So when it comes to gender roles and conformity in adolescence, when you have 6th, 7th, 8th graders and you have we'll use a boy, we'll use an example of a guy, and you have a guy that enjoys arts and theater, and it's perceived as a feminine connotation, and it's under the female gender roles. The boy during adolescence might get made fun of, might perhaps be called certain derogatory names. So in that age group, in adolescence, more than likely, if he does not overcome what other people think, he will conform to a more masculine activity. In conclusion, gender roles can have a negative or positive connotation. Most believe gender roles fall more on the negative spectrum than positive. However, the connotation is all in how the individual adolescent perceives it. Adolescence can be a struggle to go through, especially with peer pressure and high expectations of body image, self-esteem, and conformity. However, if an adolescent is willing to overcome the negative connotations, then it will result in possibly a positive body image during this adolescent period, higher self-esteem, and also the ability to not conform to stereotypical categories for his or her gender. So this is my presentation on gender roles in adolescence. There were 5 studies that I used, and then I also used our textbooks. Thank you.